In the first two seasons of Attack on Titan, the main enemies were the massive titular titans themselves, massive man-eating monsters. In this season, the true enemy is corruption in politics. Hello my friends, and welcome to my review of 2 episodes of Attack on Titan. I didn't have an opportunity to watch last week's episode, so today we're doubling down on 2 episodes, which is still building upon this big civil war amongst the people in Attack on Titan. You have the interior police going up against Levi's scouts, and the plot is continuing to thicken. The first episode we're going to talk about here mostly delves into the history of Historia herself, and it's a pretty tragic backstory to say the least. What would you expect from a post-apocalyptic story like Attack on Titan? So we get to learn that Historia's family was not really much of a real family at all. Her father really didn't seem to have too much interaction with her and really didn't seem to play too much of a role in her actually growing up as a person. Even more so her mother, who seemed kind of freaking insane, to be perfectly honest. There's a really disturbing scene of Historia interacting with her mother when she's younger, and she desperately tries to have some sort of connection with her mother, even if it's something as simple as just hugging her or being around her. But her mother seems to want to have nothing to do with her whatsoever. She sees her as a burden, a curse, and basically as a mistake. And that alone is messed up, but what truly makes the scene so heartbreaking is that even with the abuse that Historia takes from her mother, she still accepts this as some form of love. She just wants to be recognized by her mother in some sort of way. And as if that wasn't tragic enough, we eventually get to learn that Kenny Ackerman, of all people, is the one who is responsible for actually killing Historia's mother, directly in front of her, slitting her throat. And Historia was almost killed as well, if not for the sudden decision by her father to send her away under a brand new persona, something that she's donned since the beginning of the series, and now we know there's real truth about her. Basically, it looks like she's going to be used as some sort of political tool in order to bring the Rice family back to rule and to take over the people who have currently taken over the world government inside of Attack on Titan. A government which is completely corrupt in what it's trying to cover up with all the things going on in the walls, and they can't let any of that information get out, whether it be from Levi or maybe even from Captain Erwin, who actually ends up getting captured in this episode right here, and it looks like he's actually going to be put to death and silenced, which is going to be the first nail in the coffin for Levi and his scouts. Now, of course, Erwin has very good intentions here. He knows there's always been some corruption in the government. We learn that this is something that his father actually taught him when he was younger. Erwin knows how horrifying the interior police can actually be. He knows what they're capable of. In fact, his father was actually a school teacher who knew about the true history of the walls and the history behind all of them, stuff that he actually ended up telling his son. But as soon as he ended up telling him these things, his father suddenly disappeared and was killed. It's obvious that the government actually did this, and he knows what they're actually going to be capable of if you start to dig a little deep into their very creepy secrets. So, things are not looking good for Erwin at the moment. Today's episode, on the other hand, really kicked things up to 11 and had some really great subplots going on. One, I love that we got to see the return of Marlowe and Hitch, 2 characters that I don't think that we've actually seen since the very first season of the show. If they were in the second season, I think it was really only a cameo. And I love both of these characters. Marlowe with his ridiculously hilarious bowl cut, the fact that he's very similar to Eren and simply just wants to do the best thing possible for humanity. And then there's Hitch, who's basically there just to completely annoy him and be a really fun and goofy character, until the moment where she decides that she needs to take a giant piece of wood and frickin' crack your skull in. Really, what I loved about them in this episode is that they really don't know anything that's been going on. The stuff with Annie, the fact that the scouts have been going to war with the interior police. They're just going on a little scout regiment when they actually end up running into Armin. But this ends up being a trap. They get captured, and they learn the horrible truth of everything that's going on with the interior police. Marlowe, being the man of justice that he is, decides that he actually wants to join Levi's group, but Levi's not going to let him join all that easily, at least not without some sort of test, and he leaves this up to Jean, which I think is great because Jean kind of has to like make up for the fact that he screwed up earlier and almost got everybody killed, so he's going to take it upon himself to sort of like self-interrogate both Marlowe and Hitch, and almost seems like he's actually going to end up killing both of them. This actually ends up working out for Jean as he really wants Marlowe to join, because Marlowe does grab the knife, but he ends up throwing it away, showing that no matter what, he still wants to help these guys out. It's a little too late, though, when frickin' Hitch comes in and smacks John in the face with a giant piece of wood, but luckily he's able to survive this pummeling and decides to let both of them sort of end up being like their secret spies for the group. Which it is also worth mentioning that during this entire scene, they also mention Kenny Ackerman again, and it just occurred to me that Mikasa's last name is Ackerman as well, so I really can't wait to see what her connection is actually going to be to this family, and she does react when they actually say this, so I can't wait to see what this is all actually going to lead to, and why this Ackerman family has been so important in the past, or at least to the story of Attack on Titan. There's another subplot in the episode which goes into Dima Reeves' son Flegel, who at first is just irritating and annoying. He's a character that you're supposed to not to like at all, but Hanji Zoe actually ends up meeting up with him, and they come up with this ingenious plan to actually reveal that the Interior Police are corrupt and that they've actually been doing all these terrible things. They actually use Flegel as bait to bring in these soldiers, and of course because they're stupid, they end up monologuing about their entire plan, and all of the citizens are actually all secretly listening in on all these events. Hanji Zoe comes in to punch the shit out of this dude. Freaking Falcon punches him to the point where she even ends up hurting her hands, and even reveals that everybody heard this, you just outed everything, you guys are completely screwed. What I especially love about this scene, though, is that Flegel actually reveals everything about his father, ends up taking charge and responsibility, and ends up becoming the brand new boss in town. Again, within the span of like 20 minutes, they turned a super annoying character into someone who's actually kind of badass. The episode ends with a nice tense cliffhanger. It looks like Levi and his group are actually about to be ambushed by a group of soldiers, and it's all in the middle of a big interrogation sequence. They came upon this camp which has all of these rookies there, but this one guy who works directly in the Interior Police, who ends up getting most of Levi's boot in his face throughout most of the scene, but as much as Levi beats this guy up, he doesn't really seem to know anything. He doesn't know where Eren or Historia is at all. But it looks like it's all going to turn into a big conflict in the next episode, and as it's made very clear in this one, all the brand new ODM gear has been specifically made for hunting down humans, so things are going to get pretty intense. So, what's the rundown on both of these episodes right here? Just, the politics are fully at play in this season. There's no getting around it at this point. It's still surprising that we have not seen a single scene of the Scouts actually going up against Titans and everything, but again, I do like how they actually are starting to build up to the fact that this entire government is corrupt, and they're effectively responsible for everything that's going on in this world, or at least connected to those major events. Why that is still a complete and utter mystery, but honestly, the fact that it's finally starting to come to light is pretty cool. I have to admit that. These are politics, but they're actually really easy to understand politics, and they're surprisingly fun to watch as well. Again, the show just absolutely exudes a lot of great style. The scene with Flegel and them actually tricking those soldiers into monologuing, followed by Hanji Zoe and them coming in, was just awesome. The scene where Marlo and Hitch are actually tricked by Armin is really fantastic, and his attitude towards the entire situation comes across as a little cold, but you can tell that he's significantly more, like, confident about what it is that he's actually going to be doing with Levi's group here. It's almost as if he's come to peace with it, but it certainly has changed his character from the happy-go-lucky guy who came up with the plans to someone who's a little bleak and dark, and I still have a feeling that that's going to come to a head later, and eventually he's going to have some form of a breakdown. I don't know how that's going to happen, but it's going to be tense. And again, like I said, bringing back Marlo and Hitch was a really great decision, as they're very distinctive characters, and I wanted to see more of them, to be perfectly honest. So, yeah, great episodes of Attack on Titan right here, which is building upon the great backstory of the series. I don't know how this is ultimately going to tie into everything, and I don't read the manga, so every single episode gives me something new, and for that, I just love it. So, both of these episodes right here, 5 out of 5 for me. I'd love to hear from you guys about these episodes. You can tell me all about them in the comments section below. If you liked them, if you didn't like them, tell me about your favorite moments from this episode and what you hope to see from the rest of the story of Attack on Titan. Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.